looking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your gear, hold on tight, it's a wild ride ahead in a zombie story.
Previously in Savitri, the Bride of Death. The palace of Madra pulsed with romance, ritual, and radiant life. Savitri, the breathtaking princess with unmatched beauty and bold spirit, found her heart's equal in the calm and noble Satyavan. Their love blossomed amidst royal ceremonies, luxurious pleasures, and whispers of a darker destiny. But as love deepened, fate grew restless. Strange omens began to haunt the edges of the royal horizon. Silent shadows moved among the courtiers, priests grew quiet, birds flew in reverse, and Savitri's dreams? No longer dreams, they were warnings. Yet love kept blooming. And now, the danger grows. Now begins the turning point. As Chapter 6 unfolds, Savitri's world of seduction and silk begins to crack. The god of death, Yama, looms closer with each heartbeat. But Savitri is not a woman who waits to be broken. She will rise, fight, and charm even death itself. Will the royal palace survive the approaching storm? Will love conquer doom, or feed it? Subscribe now to the Zombie Story Zone for the next breathtaking chapter where horror rises through beauty and legends take a deadly turn. Like, comment, and follow for royal suspense, seductive twists, and a love story unlike any ever told.
Join the hunt, uncover the front in the Zombie Story Zone. We'll survive the night.
The palace did not sleep that night. Though the feasting had ended and the dancers retired, a quiet unease haunted every marble corridor of Kalantaka. The disappearance of Vali, the youngest and most adored of the royal performers, had shaken the inner court. And yet, the next morning, Savitri rose like a queen untouched by fear. Draped in sapphire silk embroidered with silver moons, she walked barefoot into the Mandira garden, where dew-kissed roses bloomed beside fountains that sang like birds. A dozen royal women joined her, each radiant in the soft light. But their beauty held no joy today. Rukmini, veiled in ivory, murmured ancient mantras beneath her breath. Padmavati danced slowly on the white marble, her movements sharp, controlled, as if warding off something unseen. Devika, clad in emerald, circled the garden perimeter with a blade hidden in her waist sash. Kavya sat beneath a jasmine tree, her sketchbook filled with disturbing visions. Eyes in the sky, hands in the earth, blood trailing through silk. Savitri's voice broke the silence. Something has entered this palace. It walks in perfume and shadows. That evening, Savitri ordered a private assembly in the Chandrakanta Sabha, the moonlit royal chamber reserved only for queens, princesses, and elite allies. The room shimmered in silver drapes, blue crystal chandeliers, and hundreds of oil lamps. The scent of oud and rosewater filled the air. But beneath the luxury, tension pulsed like a drum. 16 of Kalantaka's most exquisite royal women stood in a circle around Savitri. Each wore a different color, a different jewel, a different weapon hidden beneath their silks. They weren't just princesses. They were shields of the kingdom. Sharvani, armored in gold, declared, "This is no ordinary darkness. Someone, or something, wants you afraid." Rukmini nodded. The black lotus symbol left behind, it belongs to the Bhayanak Bhairavi cult. They worship a forgotten death god, banished centuries ago. Savitri frowned. And now they're back? Or summoned? Said Lilavati, her voice cold. Possibly by someone inside the palace. The word hung heavy in the air. Betrayal. That night, Savitri visited her husband in the royal chamber. Satyavan sat near the open balcony, silent, shirtless, moonlight caressing the lines of his bare back. His skin seemed paler than usual. His eyes, when he turned, had a strange glow. He smiled. "Are you afraid, my queen?" "Not of death," Savitri said, walking slowly toward him, "but of lies wrapped in silk." Their lips met, soft, sweet, desperate. The kiss was long, but it tasted of distance. She touched his chest. His heartbeat was slow, too slow. "You're hiding something," she whispered, but Satyavan only held her tighter. "I came back for you," he said, "but sometimes I wonder if I should have stayed dead." Suddenly, the chamber's torches blew out, all at once. From the mirror, a second reflection of Satyavan stared at her. Its face twisted, eyes black, lips stretched into a haunting smile. Savitri turned sharply, but Satyavan stood where he was, unaware, or pretending to be. She stepped back, heart pounding. Something was in her palace. Something was wearing her husband's face. The sun had never seemed so golden. As Savitri emerged from the nether path, cradling the soul-restored Satyavan in her arms, the sky burst into colors no human had seen before. Hues of lavender flame and rose gold. Birds returned to the trees. The flowers, long wilted in grief, now bloomed again as if nature itself bowed to her victory. But Savitri did not return alone. Behind her walked the 5 women who had braved the underworld, their silks torn, their eyes glowing with sacred strength. Each had faced death and returned more than human. Now they were known across the kingdom as the Sisters of the Flame. Awaiting them at the forest's edge were the royal chariots, draped in silk canopies and pulled by ivory-white horses. Trumpets blared. Lotus petals rained from the sky. Kalantaka was rejoicing. Savitri stepped onto the royal chariot beside Satyavan, who, though weak, held her hand tightly. He looked at her as though seeing her for the first time. She was no longer just his wife. She was a living legend. At the palace gates, Queen Malini awaited with open arms, tears glistening like pearls on her regal face. She was surrounded by courtesans, handmaidens, and 6 of the most enchanting women of the empire, the royal daughters of allied kingdoms, visiting for the spring festival. Princess Amaya of Mithila, delicate yet fierce, clad in sapphire lehenga. Rukmini of Avanti, a golden enchantress, her voice like soft rain. Padmavati, the dancer of Magadha, a flame in motion. Indulekha, the poetess with eyes like midnight. Meghavi, the silent warrior, jeweled armor gleaming. Saira, the mysterious oracle with silver bangles that whispered secrets. Each of them rushed to Savitri, embracing her, surrounding her like petals around a rose. "You are the heartbeat of every woman," said Princess Amaya. "You prove that even death bends to love." The palace was soon alive with celebrations. A grand festival was declared. 7 nights of music, dances under moonlit pavilions, royal feasts on golden platters, wine flowing from crystal fountains, and garlands of jasmine trailing from the balconies. Savitri and Satyavan were crowned as royal consorts of the empire, their love now eternalized in temple songs and painted murals. In the moonlight, Savitri led a slow dance in the palace garden, her crimson veil glimmering, surrounded by maidens dressed in peacock hues, singing praises of divine love. Satyavan watched her, humbled, enchanted, and fiercely proud. But even in this celebration, Savitri's eyes would sometimes drift toward the stars, for she knew something no one else did. Yama had let her win, but not without consequence. The bond between the living and the dead had been disturbed. Something ancient had stirred, something that watched and waited. And though love had conquered once, darkness was patient. The next morning, golden sunlight streamed through the Jarokas of Kalantaka's eastern wing. The palace looked alive again. Servants hurried about with trays of honeyed fruits, maids filled silver basins with rosewater, and musicians played veena in shaded courtyards. But behind the beauty, whispers churned. Another girl had vanished. Sharvani found the jeweled anklet of Nayana, a celebrated temple dancer, lying in the marble corridor that led to the ancient eastern wing, a part of the palace sealed for decades. "She never went there willingly," said Rukmini, inspecting the floor, "and no one opened that door in years." Savitri called her inner circle. They gathered by torchlight, draped in fine silks but armed like warriors. Every woman wore a different hue: crimson, ivory, jade, gold, their anklets chiming as they moved through the shadows. Together, they entered the sealed eastern wing. Dust covered everything. Ancient murals of gods and demons stared from crumbling walls. A giant brass mirror, cracked and blackened, leaned against one pillar. Its surface strangely warm to the touch. They found a staircase beneath an old rug, spiraling down into the dark. "Do we follow?" whispered Lilavati. Savitri nodded. "This is where the dead speak, and I am done listening through walls." With torches in hand, they descended into the Forgotten Vault, a secret underpalace once used by the old kings of Kalantaka. The air smelled of copper and damp stone. Faded tapestries of Yama, the god of death, lined the tunnel walls. Statues with missing eyes stared at them from alcoves. In the vault's heart, they discovered it, an underground shrine. Its floor was etched with lotus petals drawn in blood. An altar stood at the center, carved of obsidian, with offerings of bone, dried flowers, and twisted dolls made of hair. Padmavati knelt, running her fingers along the altar's carvings. "These are prayers, but backwards." "They've been calling to the other side," Devika said. begging something to cross over. A sudden gust of wind extinguished their torches. Savitri lit her flame again, only to see black shadows dancing across the walls. The mirror they had passed earlier now stood before them, though none of them had carried it. And in its glass, they saw Nyana, the missing dancer, weeping silently behind the glass, her body pale, her eyes hollow. Savitri reached for her, but the mirror pulsed and cracked, and the reflection vanished. Kavya dropped her torch. She's not dead, not yet, but trapped. By what? Asked Rukmini. Before anyone could answer, a voice echoed through the chamber, smooth, seductive, and male. You came searching for secrets, and now you carry them. It was Satyavan's voice, but it came from nowhere, or everywhere. The women looked around. No Satyavan, only shadows that twisted like smoke and moved as if alive. Savitri stepped forward, her jaw clenched. I faced death once. I will do it again. The shadows laughed. But Savitri's eyes burned with fire. She turned to her sisters, warriors, artists, dancers, dreamers. If they want queens to kneel, she said, we'll rise as goddesses. Darkness had begun to wear a crown. Within the palace of Kalantaka, the days still shimmered with glamour. Dancers twirled in gold-threaded lehengas, pearls spilled from goblets of wine, and the marble halls echoed with the sound of anklets and vina strings. But beneath it all was silence. A silence that waited. Savitri had summoned the kingdom's wisest, priestesses, warriors, seers, mystics. They gathered in the Crimson Lotus Court, a secret sanctum deep beneath the palace, lit with floating dia lamps and mirrored pools. The air was fragrant with saffron and sandalwood, and walls were carved with forgotten mantras. There, Savitri stood at the center, radiant in crimson silk, gold bangles clinking softly as she raised her hand. We did not walk through death's gate to let it follow us home, she said. Something ancient walks among us, and it is not finished. Around her stood her fierce and beautiful allies. Princess Amaya, her sapphire veil shadowing stormy eyes. Sharvani, in armor kissed by moonlight. Padmavati, who danced to distract demons. Rukmini, voice of silk now filled with fire. Kavya, the dream seer who hadn't slept in nights. Champa, dagger on her thigh, eyes on every shadow. The body of the fallen dancer had vanished. Only a stain remained, black as tar, shaped like a blooming lotus. The same shape began appearing across the kingdom, on doors, on silk, even on the mirror of Savitri's own chamber. The signs were undeniable. It's not Yama, Kavya whispered. It's older. It's hungrier. That evening, a royal feast was held, a distraction to calm the court. The palace lit up in ruby-red lanterns, sweet pan was served on gold leaves, and 7 newly arrived princesses, each a guest of Kalantaka, joined the celebration. Devika, with lips like scarlet wine and eyes that shimmered mischief. Sundari, a healer whose smile could soothe grief. Vaidehi, stoic and silent, rumored to speak with the dead. Nayantara, cloaked in silks that shimmered like moonlight on rivers. Ishani, a warrior queen whose anklets jingled like war drums. Lilavati, delicate as a poem, but with secrets behind every glance. Tara, the wanderer, who knew songs older than the stars. They danced beneath crystal chandeliers. They laughed, they flirted, they kissed goblets and offered toasts. But one by one, their shadows stopped moving, and Savitri saw it. In the reflection of the wine, a face. Pale, bloodless, with eyes like burning coal, watching from behind the curtain of silk. Suddenly the lamps flickered. A scream. The mirrors cracked. And from the balcony, a voice, not spoken but heard by every soul present. She stole from death. Now death steals from her. The lotus had bloomed. But what had it fed on? The lotus had bloomed, and now the palace bled. Whispers of dread passed through corridors draped in embroidered silk. Peacocks cried in the gardens. Mirrors cracked. The courtesans refused to dance. The gold statues wept red. Something had torn through the veil of the living and crossed into Kalantaka, and it wanted Savitri. But she was not the girl who once walked into the jungle for love. She was now Queen Savitri, the woman who had faced Yama and returned with her beloved. In the moonlight court, she stood, surrounded by her fierce circle of queens, warriors, mystics, and seductresses, glowing with regal beauty and unbreakable spirit. Silk veils shimmered like waves, anklets chimed like war bells, and each woman bore a different strength, divine, carnal, mental, and magical. Savitri's allies stood with her. Princess Devika, whose kiss could stop hearts. Kavya, whose dream sight revealed the coming storm. Padmavati, whose dance was now a weapon. Nanda, cloaked in red, holding the lotus-shaped dagger. Rukmini, who chanted verses older than death. Lilavati, who whispered, "He is not done, Savitri." Yama wasn't alone. The air thickened. And then, he appeared. Not Yama, but a shadow wearing his face. Taller, twisted, eyes like embers buried in ash. A forgotten god of the underworld, long erased from stories. Kalavira, he named himself. Once a brother to Yama, now cursed to walk in shadow, feeding on broken fate. "You stole Satyavan's soul," Kalavira said. "Now I claim yours, and your queen's." Savitri stepped forward. Her voice did not tremble. "You are centuries too late." With a wave of her hand, the mirrors in the moonlight court lit up, glowing with ancient Sanskrit inscriptions, mantras bound in love and sacrifice. Each of her royal sisters stepped into position, forming a living circle of power. From her waist, Savitri drew the golden dagger Yama had gifted her, forged from life itself. "You will not take what love has claimed." Kalavira screamed, a sound that cracked chandeliers and shattered rose-colored glass. He lunged forward, but he did not strike Savitri. He struck Satyavan, who had appeared silently behind her, trying to protect his queen. The blade went through his heart. A death that was never meant to be was now complete. The palace gasped, but Savitri did not cry. She smiled. "You forget, Kalavira. I am not just a bride. I am Death's bride." She kissed Satyavan's lips, a final time, and drove the dagger into her own heart. The circle exploded with divine fire. Kalavira screamed, consumed by light and mantra, undone by love and sacrifice. The lotus shriveled. The shadows faded. Savitri's body fell beside Satyavan's. But before the dawn rose, Yama himself came, and in a hush of wind and gold, he bowed to her. "You have given fate a new story." He touched her forehead, and Savitri opened her eyes, but Satyavan did not. She lived again as queen, but with no king. And from that day on, no god, demon, or spirit dared challenge the women of Kalantaka again. They ruled in silk and steel, love and fire, beauty and wrath. And behind Savitri's smile, always lived the memory of death. In the depths of Kalantaka, where shadows whispered and mirrors bled memories, a queen stood defiant, not with a sword, but with a soul too bright for darkness to swallow. Savitri didn't just rescue her husband, she redeemed him. She didn't just confront death, she commanded it. The forbidden cult was shattered, the cursed mirrors burned, and the undead tether that bound Satyavan was severed by the flame of her love and the unity of 6 powerful women who refused to break. As dawn broke, Kalantaka awoke, not just cleansed, but reborn. The palace flourished again. Laughter returned to the courtyards. The seductive glamour of royal life, music, dance, desire, shimmered without fear. And at its center stood Savitri, no longer just a bride, but a legend, a woman who kissed death and made it bow. But the mirror still hides deep in the vault, cracked, sealed, but never truly silent. Some say it still reflects those lost between life and death. Some say the veil between worlds is never fully closed. If you love this fusion of ancient romance, royal seduction, zombie horror, and powerful women rising against fate, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone. Comment below if you want more mythological horror thrillers, or if you're ready to meet the next bride of death. Because in this kingdom, the dead don't sleep, they remember. Stay haunted, stay royal, and stay tuned.
Zombie Story Zone, where the tales of the undead widely known. Join the hunt, uncover the fight in the Zombie Story Zone. We'll survive the night. With laughter, it's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn, we'll learn some new tricks. So grab your friends, let's dive right in the Zombie Story Zone. Let the fun begin. It's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn, we'll learn some new tricks. So grab your friends, let's dive right in the Zombie Story Zone. Let the fun begin. Get laughter, it's a crazy mix. With every twist and turn, we'll learn some new tricks. So grab your friends, let's dive right in the Zombie Story Zone. Let the fun begin. Grin and laughter, it's a crazy mix.